Welcome to Blue Grit Radio, the podcast that explores making better cops for a better community. I'm your host, Eric Tung. I've been an active police officer since 2007. We will dive into the aspects of police culture, health and wellness, leadership, and mindset. You'll hear from experts not only from policing, but all industries as they relate to being our best with purpose, passion, and positivity. Join me as we share stories, lessons, and advice so we can all be better for ourselves, our teams, our families, and our communities. All right, welcome back to Blue Grit Radio. Today, my guest joining me is none other than the esteemed Commander Cristian Adams, and he's got a big ol' smirk when I say that. Sir, how you doing?
I am fantastic, my friend. How are you?
Good. I'm really happy that I promoted a couple of months ago, only because I feel way more comfortable calling you man, dude, or Christian. As we'll share with the audience, whenever I would title an email or a text or something saying sir, you're basically at the sir me one more time and see what happens.
No, it always made me laugh because I don't work with you per se in the same city, so my rank holds nothing outside of these walls.
Yeah, I disagree. And so much of it is the respect for the rank and the position. It takes a lot to get there. So I might be a little bit more old school, maybe how we came up. I think we came in a year apart, roughly.
Yeah, just about.
07?
Yeah, I was 06.
Yeah, so there you go. Christian, working city of Auburn, just the city to the south of me in Kent. Yeah, we had pretty parallel careers, you could say, as far as coming in a year apart in neighboring cities. Met you through work. I remember specifically the first call I interacted with you on, and we've recounted this a couple times just because more recently our careers, again, were parallel in trying to hustle and run recruiting. Out competing, but all in jest, bring more good people and good folks into the police career. Yeah, what was your recollection on that first call?
Oh, that first call. That was it was exciting. It was a good burglary in progress. A gentleman sleeping outside of a business heard people breaking in and gave us a phone call. I remember you showed up to assist with your K9 partner. And it just went from there. It was good police work, but it was also funny. And it's been a great story ever since. I mean, it's even Sergeant Anderson now, who was with us on that call. He still remembers, and we still laugh about that because it was, we had all those plans like we always do in police work. We have a plan. And then as we're forming up, here comes the bad guy around the corner, and it's like, crap, there he is. And so we kick the fence over, we take the dog in, and the rest is history. Got two captures out of that.
Anderson, who my academy mate. So it's really cool when you go through academy and you have people in the region, because then you can kind of keep in touch and you run into each other. There's a host of people I ran into from Auburn, Federal Way, especially from K9. I'd assist out or CDU, like regional teams. I remember you were a field trainer, right?
Yes, I was. I was the field trainer. Yeah. Some of the most fun I had in this career was teaching and educating the new officers. It was a lot of fun. A lot of the officers I've trained, or a couple of them are promoted now. They're sergeants, and it's great to see that growth.
And that's an added benefit, as long as it's not a problematic student. But when you have a field training student and officer at the same call, then you basically get 2 for 1, maybe 1.5, depending on the level of training, especially when you're dealing with multiple subjects, right? Because that Berg ended up having 2 suspects, if I remember right. The one was located right away, like you said. And I remember Anderson said either before, like kind of aside to me, like as to make me feel better about my backup being you and your boot on the track, or he said it after. But regardless, he was like, hey man, this guy's a beast. Track star. He's going to have no issue keeping up. But it's not like I said anything. But I remember that fence. It was like, if I remember right, it was a chain link fence, and you just like went to the post, and naturally K9s, we carry wire snips, and we think about, do we cut? Do we lift the dog? What's easier? Does the backing officer feel comfortable receiving the dog if I lift him? But you just kind of started just front kicking like this is Sparta. And then that post just went over, and I was like, dang, okay. So he's got some power there. No joke. So that was super impressive.
No, that was funny. And that was great. Adrenaline and desire to catch the guy. And so yeah, we kicked the post. We, me, you, the dog, and Anderson went in, and we start tracking. And I'll never forget the guys up in the ceiling, hanging up there, and called him Spider-Man and told him to come on down, and he did. And he went in the handcuffs, and then we kept tracking and found the second guy. No, that was the exciting track because, as said before, I did run track, and so I love running. I used to love running with K9. My favorite thing to do. Run with K9. I mean, gosh, all the tracks I was on, dozens. I had 2 captures with you. I had 1 capture with Shipman. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah.
One capture with prior, and other than that, no captures. And I mean,
Mm.
I ran with the dog every night. O'Neill, canine
Mm-hmm.
handler O'Neill, I ran
Mm-hmm.
with him every time I could, and we never caught anybody.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's listening, he's like, "Hey, that's a poor representation." And sometimes it's luck of the draw. But yeah, I remember that call. And for the younger officers listening and the older officers listening will be just probably nodding their heads. But that was a very early one for me. But it was so impactful to trust the dog, but also trust the process. In that the handler is responsible for the canine dog, and then the backing officers are responsible for everything else. And that's like 360 awareness. But as you point out, commercial Berg, dude's up in the rafters in a kind of an auto bay, if I remember right. Like it's high.
Yeah. Yep.
Like 15, 20 feet high, somewhere around there. The dog's circling, heads up, and I'm like, man, I think he's getting hot. But as a new handler, you're not really fully applying the textbook to the practical. And then you finally look up, challenge the dude, and yeah, you're like, man, you Spider-Man your way up there. You better Spider-Man your way down. And he was super compliant, came all the way down, and that was a good thing. And a good thing for him, he didn't just fall down either, because that would have been a pretty bad day for him. But hey.
Oh yeah, they've been all bad.
Yeah.
No, that was a good capture. And then wasn't the next week you came back out and helped us at that auto garage up north? I remember that one because it was up north. And you bluffed the building, called out to it, and the first guy comes out. I mean, he comes out quick. He's like, I'm here, because you know I'm sending the dog in.
Yeah.
He comes out, hands up, and he's like, here I am. I'm right here. I got no weapons. He was 1,000% compliant. And so we go in to check, and I remember there were motorcycle parts everywhere, so it was difficult to kind of maneuver through. But the dog's like a bunny rabbit, just jumping over parts, and he's obviously he knows someone's there because he's moving. And then that guy, as the dog got close, he gave up, and so another 2-person capture.
Oh, sweet. Well, thanks for remembering that, because not to make it sound a certain way, but it's hard to remember all of them. Like, we kept logs, and there's a part of me that wishes that I had printed out or taken notes on each one, and sure, I could find it again. But for the officers running, you typically remember a handful very clearly because you were there. But for the handlers, oftentimes, maybe less so now because there's not as much dog work or applications, but it all kind of bleeds together, and it's fun to listen to for sure.
Oh yeah, no, it was always a blast. I mean, like I said, I mean, when we had working graveyard, if we had a priority call, if K9 said he was en route, the very next transmission was me saying I'm running with K9. And so I got out there and ran, and I mean, over hills and all kinds of craziness. I had some captures with some other guys, other officers we had in our department. I had a capture or two with, but for the most part, I mean, I ran exclusively with O'Neill for a long time, and we just nothing.
Yeah.
But I never complained. I loved running. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a challenge.
Yeah, some officers love it, some officers don't. So if you're into dog work and you're into you potentially being a handler, then be that guy or gal that answers up. One of the first ones on the radio, say, "Hey, I'll run." Truly, there usually will be a crew where a couple people want to run, and sometimes, hey, if you have multiple subjects or someone armed, you definitely should have multiple if you can afford to. But on top of that, when you answer up, you're probably relieving a couple that just don't feel great, or they know that their fitness isn't up to snuff, and that's okay too. Like, if you're not up for it, then you're going to put everyone in a bad position, if you feel reluctantly obligated to do it. If you can't do it, you can't do it. And that's where ego comes in. And I'll even insert, I love running with the dog. And after promoting sergeant, I would find every opportunity if someone was running the scene and coordinating it, and there's another sergeant, like for sure I would go run in, because a lot of that's beneficial too. A lot of prior canine handlers and current canine handlers like to have that dynamic, because you get an extra set of eyes with the specific training, and then also someone that is very comfortable working with the dogs, lifting and all that. But there was one where we had multiple people flee from a vehicle, and I was one of the guys running, but it kept going and going. And at a certain point, all these SWAT dudes were getting off training. And this is where I love Valley SWAT, because of the tenacity. But they're all coming back into the city, and the Kent guys were like, I mean, they've been shooting all day on their feet, but they're like, hey, do you guys need help on that track? And literally the three of us that were running, because multiple subjects presumed to be armed, we were like, actually, yeah, because we're carrying ARs and our lower backs just killing us after a while. The handler didn't tap out, but all the SWAT guys tapped in, and it was fantastic, because they're all, I mean, they weren't fresh because they're shooting all day, but they were fresh with running, and they were newly focused. And certainly if there was an armed encounter, like, they're the best people you want there.
No, definitely. No, canine running was always one of my passions, or doing quarry work was always fun. I mean, I always wanted to be a handler, but the position is it's tough to get into and it's limited. And so this never, was in my future. But I was canine commander for a little bit when I was in patrol, and I was able to supervise the purchase of 2 new dogs and get some great handlers on the street. And so I take pride in that.
Yeah, that's legit. So you were an FTO, you went to detectives, correct? Was that your next
Yes.
progression?
Well, I went from patrol to detectives, came back, and then FTO, and then sergeant to commander.
Mm-hmm. And that was a pretty, quicker stint, yeah?
Yeah, I was sergeant for, oh gosh, 2.5 years, about two and a
Mm.
half. And yeah, and then commander, and it was like, all right, well, I guess it's time to time to do work.
Yeah, so I've picked your brain a lot offline, and when we talk about leadership, when we talk about promotion for your agency, for your team, what helped you decide to do those things? Because clearly you're no slouch to the work. You love the line work. You worked in investigations. You love patrol. You love getting your boots on the ground, literally running and doing all that. What prompted you, or what kind of themes were you thinking about when you're trying to decide whether people should promote or not? Because that's something that I'm continually trying to think about for myself, but also for my young guys and gals when I'm nudging. Some of these people are really new, but I'm like, hey, these are the things you got to think about, because we're in a culture and a time where you might not feel ready to be a field training officer, but me and my peers and your peers are telling you you're ready to be a trainer and be an influence for these new people coming up.
No, and I hear that, and I agree with that 100%. I think for me it was the challenge. We've all been in places, no matter what career path you've been in, where you've seen leadership or management, whatever way you want to look at it, that doesn't really meet the needs of the people. Everyone says that. Anyone could name 10 to 15 horrible leaders they've had or supervisors they had, but they struggled to name the ones that were competent and cared about them and took care of them. And so I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be the guy that, was able to take on the burden, take on the responsibility, take on all those tasks that others didn't want to do, and then have to shift my mindset from my job is no longer to go out in the streets and take those calls and do those things. My job now is to make sure I take care of the people so they have what my coworkers, they have what they need to do the job the way they want to. And so when you have that mindset shift, I think it helps you a whole lot when it comes to leadership. And a lot of people don't want to do it because of the responsibility or the hours or the extra stress. But it's a necessary evil of the job. I mean, there's things we don't want to do all the time that we have to do. And so leadership is one of those things. And if you have the wherewithal and the skills and ability to do it, you would be amiss to not put your name in the hat and take that opportunity to lead the people that want to follow you.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. At the start of that, you focused on the bad bosses that everyone's had. And that's a classic thing. They literally teach in FTO school almost to a T, because I went through FTO class and I sat in on one years later, verbatim. It was, hey, let's list off all the traits of your good FTOs. And then, people all from the class raise their hand. They offer different traits and different characteristics. And then they go to the bad FTOs. And that, man, everyone's raising their hand. Everyone has like 5 or 10 things to add on. And there's lots of repeats. And everyone knows that terrible trainer, but not to create value out of it. But hey, you're going to make lemonade. Is that informs you so much, like what not to be. And like that's so iconic and pivotal for people to be like, I'm not doing anything like that guy or that gal or in this way. Yeah, it's huge.
No, it definitely is. And I think that the more people start to focus on the positive and bring out those positive traits, we will get better leadership.
Yeah, for assessing if people are ready or not, you kind of said that you've reflected on, okay, I've done these things and now my time is to facilitate growth for the others. Are there any tidbits that you would suggest to, those young up and coming leaders that are like, man, I'm not sure if taking the sergeant's test is for me yet or not?
I think the biggest thing is people always, they say that caveat in life, I'll do it when I'm ready. And you're never ready. You're never ready for anything. You're not ready to buy your first home. You're not ready for your first kid. You're not ready to do this or do that. But you have to be willing. Don't look at being ready, but look at being willing. Are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to educate yourself? Are you willing to be that person that is able and willing to lead people? And if you are willing to do it, then you are ready. And so I think if people switch that mindset and look at it from that lens, do what you're willing to do. It's a struggle, it's difficult, there's ups and downs, it's not easy, or everyone would do it, but if you're willing to do it, and you will become ready.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about people that say maybe they'll take the test because they don't really want it this time, but they think they want it the next time there's a test, and that way they can learn the test and be best prepped for the time that they really want it?
I mean, that's a mindset some people need. Some people have, they need that practice for them to be successful. They feel they need that practice. I'll be honest, on the commander test, I went in there. Um, I was nervous like always, like anyone is, but I just went in there like I'm going to be me. I'm not going to uh, do this mass preparation and all this studying. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to present who I am and the person I am. And if that is what this city was looking for in leadership, then I would be picked. And that's what I really think people should focus on. Don't, the whole practicing and everything, because you might come out number one, like I did. And I was like, oh, all right, well, here we go. I think they just focus on doing the best they can, being prepared for it, because they never know when that opportunity is going to come. You might take it for a practice and you might come out number one or number two. There might be a retirement. Someone might win the mega millions and quit. Who knows? And then your number is called and you were half-hearted and half effort into this process. And now you're thrust into this position and you're more likely to become one of those bad leaders because you really didn't want it and you didn't prepare for it and you're not willing to put in the work.
Yeah, that's such a thing. And I like that you covered that, which is you were going to be you. But I will add the caveat because some people don't represent that well without some practice and some polishing. A lot of people learned that at the beginning, right? Entry level, they were like, I feel like I could have a conversation with anyone on the street, but you put me in front of an interview board, I'm locked up. My hands are clammy, I'm stuttering, all of a sudden, like, who is this? So there is something to the practice, but you're a very natural speaker and presenter and very charismatic. So I'll say that for the listeners that think, okay, when I'm ready, I'll just show up. Like, no. It depends. So I will add that little tidbit.
I'm just goofy and I show up and I'm just me. And I still laugh to this day from my commander test because I literally just showed up. I mean, I was confident, I'm prepared and I do my job and I feel like I do it well. So there's that preparation that I put into the things I do in work. I felt there was no need to excessively study and look at other things because it's like, hey, you know what you know, and you know how to do this job. Go out there and tell them you know how to do it. I still laugh to this day because when I went in there, I was working that day, so I had to hurry up and get ready. My uniform was all in disarray. I'm just not mentally ready. And then I'll never forget, I get ready to go in the room and my coworker pats me on the back and says, good luck. And I realize at that moment, I don't have my vest on. And so I'm just like, it's whatever. I was like, I'm here now. It's too late to go back. I think that really broke the ice for me though, because a lot of the nervousness was gone now. Cause I'm like, well, I'm all screwed up. My handcuffs are falling off my gun belt. They weren't snapped. It was just bad. I feel like a brand new student officer.
That's good framing because, something I recognize about you is that you don't take yourself too seriously, right? You don't take the job too seriously, which is huge for longevity and reducing the likelihood of burnout and staying positive, right? You're a guy that we've connected a lot about just trying to stay positive with the police culture and the challenges, either in-house or regionally, just being a neighbor. All of our problems are the same, department to state, across the country, even across the borders, right? So we are not unique in our challenge and our struggles. But I think because you keep it light, that's something that I try to keep in mind for myself and my own themes. It's like, you can't take this too seriously or you will let it bog you down because the nature of the job is very serious and can be very traumatic and very volatile. If you're not counterbalancing that with something, then you're going to get drugged down with it.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I try to preach to people, don't take it so serious. Realize that sometimes the people that are calling 911, this is their one and only time in their life they may ever call the police. And what seems like a trivial problem to us, because I've seen 85 auto thefts this month, is not to them. It's their one mode of transportation. Now they can't get their kid to practice. They can't go pick up their prescription. Their world is crumbling in this moment. Just show some compassion. Just pretend you haven't been there before, and this is your first one. Show some compassion. Let that person know you care, and it makes it a lot easier, a lot less stress on you, because now their tears, sometimes, not every time, their tears could turn to a smile because they had an officer to showed up and showed us some love, and they like realize, hey, there's other things going on in life. I will rebound from this, and it makes it a positive experience for everybody. I mean, it just makes it a better interaction. Like you said, I mean, this job is negative enough, and so bring some positivity, bring a smile, try to have a good time. Everyone's different.
And that's something that I've visited a couple times, either in writing or on this podcast or others, where I talk about my times in this job where I got pretty bitter, I got pretty cynical, and I lost sight of the things that brought me here, like the work I wanted to do and the goodness I intended to spread by virtue of this job. And for me, in a lot of ways, the struggles that we've been through in the last few years since the death of George Floyd, it really forced those that are in the job and positive to really reflect hard on why they're here and turn that up, right? And focus on that. And going from community relations role in our neighborhood response team to hiring, like both very outward facing, that really helped me out. And I know that you've overseen hiring recently. Is that something that's helped you navigate, or have you found some sort of practice or life balance that helps you maintain that through your career?
I get my satisfaction from making people happy, letting people know that they're cared for, and then you see that love come back to you. And it's amazing. Just recently, at the end of the year, so the units I supervise, I sent them a calendar invite for end of the year. I can't remember what I titled it, but it was an end of the year meeting, like a recap. And, put on everyone's calendar, everyone's going to show up and stuff. And I didn't tell anybody but the sergeant. I wanted him to know. But I went and bought pizza, bought some chicken, donuts, cupcakes, cookies. Just a beautiful spread, right? There's all kinds of snacks, foods, and treats, and just good times. And here they come up towards the office, with their notebooks in hand and pens ready to take notes and discuss all this stuff. And when they round the corner, I'm like, there's no meeting. This is just a celebration of you guys. I just want to celebrate all you men and women and all the hard work that you put in this year. And just to see the look on their faces and the happiness, And so, when you do those little things, and I'm not saying you have to buy people food, but when you just show a little or a lot of appreciation, that positivity comes back. And so when people are enjoying their work and you're part of that positive impact, it makes the day better. And it's hard to do because police work is very negative. I mean, I always tell people, we don't get called to the party for cake and ice cream. We get called because someone's throwing cake and ice cream. It's a lot of negativity that we deal with. But when you take care of the people inside these walls, they take care of the people outside in the community. And it comes back, because then now they come back with a better attitude. They come back with a better interaction. Something that could have went sour actually went positive, and they're in here telling stories about how friendly or polite somebody was, even during their worst traumatic incident that they were responding to. And so just those little things really make the difference. And it's hard to do because it is a very negative career, but if you put the effort into that, you'll get it back.
That's so huge. Like what you just said, I've tried to spread that in certain ways, but this is the people business, right? It's people taking care of people. So when we talk about hiring, and a lot of people ask, like, what's the trait? What should I work on? I'm like, do you care about people? Like, do you care deeply about people? And that can show up in all different ways and in personalities and efforts and passions. But at the end of it, if you're trying to take care of people and make things just a little bit better, then you're probably well suited. Like, you probably have the right start to get in. But if you somehow, conflate it and you see certain things in the media, or you read certain things, or you see certain things in pop culture, and you're like, oh, that's the cool part of police, but I don't really want to deal with people, then we're at a disconnect, right?
Oh,
then
definitely.
We're really at a miss with what the whole job even is.
No, and that's beautifully said, because it is a people business. We are here to talk to and help people, mostly in crisis, help them navigate things, and protect people from those that are trying to do them harm. That's what we do, and that's not always a violent task. Sometimes, us showing up is the use of force, for lack of a better term, and gets compliance from the person without actual force being used. Thinking that, police work is what you see on TV, where you're going to rappel down buildings and jump out of helicopters and drive 150 miles an hour, and no one's going to be on the road, and you're just going to do all this stuff, and the car gets shot at and blows up, and that doesn't happen. That's not what it is about. It's about responding to that call. It's about keeping the peace. It's about stopping and waving at the kid or the family as they are going on a bike ride. Just those little things to make life a little bit better for those people that we are in the community of policing.
If I can rewind, I would just say I like that you focused on your guys and gals, and you're recognizing that you're supporting them, You're taking care of them so they can take care of others. And there's so much of that direct trickle-down effect, I think, that should be paramount and should be a central theme of police work and police leadership, which is your people are your most valuable asset. And so when we talk about police wellness, it's not just feel-good stuff. Like, no, we want you to be optimized. We want you to be fit mentally, physically. We want you to be sharp. We want you to feel supported in your decisions so you can make clear decisions and judgment for yourself. And then you can just expound that out positively to the community. It's not just about these things that sound cool, like working out on duty just because it's cool. It's like, no, that will literally help you be a better functioning person and officer so that you can be there in that time of crisis, not only physically responsive, but mentally responsive to the stress and resilient. And then that's how you're going to be able to do the job the best.
Man, that's 1,000% true. I mean, the better you take care of yourself, the better you can take care of others. And we have seen over time, some officers don't take very good care of themselves. And those are the ones that unfortunately don't take very good care of the people that they're serving. And some people do forget it is protect and serve. There is that serve element to it. And service could be something as simple as giving directions, or it could be, an unfortunate incident where you are chasing someone on foot or in a vehicle that just committed a heinous crime. You are serving the people and protecting them. I took pride in working graveyard and keeping the city quiet so people that need to sleep could sleep. That was my job. That was my duty. I wanted to protect people and make sure they were safe in their homes and their property was protected.
Yeah, when you say it like that, it's like, it sounds so obvious.
And I mean, a lot of times it's honestly just responding to 911 calls, calls for service when someone hears something outside their home or their car alarm goes off, and just protecting people and making sure that they are safe in their homes and able to go about their business freely.
Yeah, I like the examples you give, which is just literally creating like a peace of mind, like what every person wants for themselves, for their family, for their kids, for their mom, dad. People just want to be in a safe environment where they can do their thing and not have to worry about danger to themselves and their property. Like, that's ultimately the thing. And I recognize this, and this is not me pointing the finger because I'm an admin now, but this is me recognizing myself at certain times in my career where you get the suspicious call. And it's just like, I don't recognize that car down the block. It's not normally here. And there's a bit of an eye roll, and maybe you're busy. Maybe you have all these paper calls that you're trying to catch up on and these other things getting called in. So you're almost like, why bother? But ultimately, like, if you're truly honest with yourself, you know for a fact that whether it's you or your aunt has been in that situation, and if you were there, you'd be like, I kind of want to check that out, but also I'm off duty and I don't have all my stuff. I know what this could look like. I'm just going out like a vigilante. I should probably call the local PD. No one that is empathetic would really judge you in that situation, because that's literally what you'd want your loved ones to do, right? You don't want them to go snooping around with a flashlight, neighborhood watch. It's like, no, call the authority. That literally is their job, and they're best armed with not only the skills, but the legal knowledge to navigate that in the most effective way, whether the person is up to no good or whether they are a threat or not.
No, exactly. And that's perfectly said. Sometimes we do make contact with people because, it is a call-driven job. I mean, we respond to calls for service. And I think people forget sometimes that, yeah, we do check out those suspicious things because people call us and say, hey, this doesn't look right or this doesn't seem right. And so we do check those out. I mean, those are important calls and a huge aspect of what we do. I don't have numbers or a percentage, but a large amount of the time, it's usually nothing. Sometimes someone pulled over talking on a cell phone and they're a newer driver, so they were actually being responsible and pulling off the roadway. Mm-hmm. It's nice to be able to go check those things out, communicate with that person in the car, let them know why you're there. It's a great interaction. They kind of laugh about it. You laugh about it. Report back to this community member who called and say, hey, this is who it was. Oh, okay. And everyone moves on and everyone's happy. And so those little things, though, those little nuggets and taking those kind of calls serious really makes a positive impact on the people. Because again, like I said earlier, sometimes they only call 911 once in their life, and you only have that one opportunity to make that positive impression, and you got to take it.
Absolutely. I mean, did you ever have that suspected DUI driver when you're on Graves and you're following and you're taking all these mental notes and you're trying to plan your stop, and then all of a sudden it turns out to be a paper delivery person?
Oh yeah, I've had plenty of those.
I've had multiple, and I was getting myself all amped up, and I'm like starting to like hit up my buddy. I'm like, hey, like you free? You nearby? This is gonna be a really good one. It's just like, then I get closer and I see a paper flying out the window over the hood of the car, and I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah, no, I had one where I'm working patrol, see a guy climb up a second story apartment window and climb in through the window. And I'm a newer cop. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a burglary in progress. I call it out. I go running up the stairs. People are coming, and just I'm at the front door, but kind of hidden. And the guy comes out. I'm like, hey man, you're being detained. He's like, I live here. I put him in handcuffs. Asked if I could get his ID. He's like, sure, and I do, and he lives there. And I'm like, how'd you climb up and I left my key inside. I unhandcuffed him, apologized, and off I went. I'll be danged if, gosh, 7, 8 years later, I get called to a dispute in the roadway. And as I get there and get out of my car, that guy remembered me. He sees me. He's like, hey, he's like, remember you thought I was burgling my own apartment? And we both just start laughing, so the dispute's over now. I mean, he's at ease and we go and we talk and, I tell him why I'm there and stuff. And we laugh about it. No crime was committed. So we just converse for a couple, 3, 4, 5 minutes, laugh about that call 7, 8 years ago. And he, gave me a fist bump and off he went. And so, so yeah, I've had my moments where you think you got a crime in progress and it turns out to be nothing, or the paper delivery guy. And those are always good because you always get all hyped up, but it's good practice, right? You learn how to respond to those type of things and you learn how to de-escalate quickly when you realize that it's not criminal. It's just someone climbing into their second story window because they are a superhero and left their key inside.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's like the ability to toggle up and down. And so when people ask, what one of these traits is to be a police officer, we talked about the passion and the purpose and the care for people, but one of the actual skills that I like to talk about is the adaptability. And I think that you could translate that from patrol, where it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, right? So one is it looks like a felony in progress, and then it becomes literally a guy just trying to get in his own place. And he's pretty fit, luckily, right? So he's like handling it. But there's so many ways to deal with that, right? Like one, being able to respond safely with all the contingencies in plan. But then as soon as you recognize there's not a threat, then you toggle way down. You connect with them on a human level, because even when you determine there's no crime, there's a lot of ways to clear that call. And it sounds like you built a relationship and you laughed about it. Whereas like you could just be like, okay, I guess you're not guilty. And then you peace out. Like, what does that leave you with, right? And even if someone is mad that they got drawn down upon or, surrounded, and they felt really terrified for a moment, just taking a moment to say, hey, I appreciate your cooperation. This is the call we got, or this is how we saw it. Yeah. Something that makes sense there. And usually when someone is calm enough to have a conversation, they're like, no, I get that it looks like I was breaking in. No, thanks for giving me a chance and like giving me warnings that I heard, and I get it. And then you can really do the the fist bumping and just connecting, shaking hands. Hey, I'm startled you. I'm glad you didn't fall, all that, whatever it is. Whatever you can do to kind of, extend that olive branch, I think is really worthwhile, because you're right. Like, think about most people have they interacted with police outside of you or, their friends in an official way? Like they call 911 for something, like more than a couple times? And probably not.
No, and that's so true. And I think, that's a huge thing about police work, is that even if they're in custody, like you have a good crime or not, like just taking the moment sometimes to have that conversation, especially if they're willing to have it, articulate why you did what you did, explain why you did what you did, have that conversation, answer those questions, because people have questions. Because again, you could get on any streaming system and find police shows, and they're not factual. But when you take the time to explain to someone, hear their concerns, hear how they felt, and understand that, it builds that relationship. It helps them understand why we did what we did. Kind of, it humanizes you. It's hard for some people, but saying, I'm sorry, it goes a long way, because chances are you genuinely are. Like, hey, I'm sorry, I put you in handcuffs. Thank you for cooperating. This is what we had. This is how we saw it. This is what was reported. I'm glad it turned out to be nothing. And I'd give him my name by, hey, if you have any questions or concerns or complaints, here's my name. Reach out. Let's figure this out. And helps build trust. It helps build trust. Spend those extra 4, 5, 8, 15, 20 minutes. Have that conversation. Make that person as whole as you can make them before you move on. And that really builds trust and transparency in the community.
That's huge. Okay, so I want to go on this related note, right? You're talking about saying sorry to build trust, right? Showing humility. And that's something that's hard for people, because it's like, well, I'm the law, and does that make me look like I was wrong? Sure, maybe. And that's okay. Like, we're human, right? Like, no one should expect to know the whole RCW, Revised Code of Washington, for those out of state. But no one should expect anyone to memorize all the criminal law and all the different things and be right all the time. The thing is, when we have a defensive posture and we are reluctant to say we're sorry, like, what does that look like to the public? And if you're still in this like kind of defensive gut feeling when I say that, think about it this way. Ideally, we want police to be a trusted figure in the community and community leaders. And we're going to rewind back to what you're talking about, leadership, and that's caring for your people. And so how can you expect to feel and be treated like a community leader if your people, like the people you're serving and protecting, don't feel like you care about them? So I think that's one piece. And then let's expand that to, can you think about certain bad bosses that you've had, and everyone will quickly say yes. And like, did that person ever apologize to you or the crew or ever admit fault? And generally, like the ones I'm thinking about, I can't think of anything offhand, right? Like that's part of the problem. And like the disconnect with interpersonal stuff is like the ego or the standoffishness or whatever you want to call it. But I think that's key. And I think a lot of your strong leaders oftentimes put hat in hand and say, hey guys, I own this. Like that was my bad, or I didn't see things all the way, or this is my piece of it, whether it's a debrief or whether it's just a touch base. What are your thoughts on all that?
I think admitting faults and mistakes is a lot. That shows growth. That shows that you're willing and wanting to learn. That means you're willing to improve. That shows that you are coachable. And I think that's the biggest problem is that, police work in all facets of work are shifting from a management to a leadership style. Management is I manage the budget. I manage the schedule. Those are inanimate objects. I manage to order more supplies. I have to lead people. I have to interact with them. I have to make sure their needs are being met. And if they're not being met, figure out what their needs are and figure out a way to meet them. And as we are transitioning more to a leadership style where we have people leading, making those connections in the field and in the office, police work is getting so much better. But being humble enough to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, or asking for opinions and feedback. We didn't used to see that. I remember when I was newer, we didn't have supervisors that would ask opinions. If they did ask, they weren't really asking. And so now we have people, just yesterday. Yeah, exactly. Yesterday I was talking to the traffic sergeant. I was telling him what my idea was for a plan. And I told him when I started, I said, if any of this sounds dumb, let me know. And he agreed. He was like, no, he's like, that actually sounds good. I was like, okay, good. We're on the right page. And if he would have told me in the beginning, yeah, that's not going to work, then guess what? I'm going to take his word at it because I'm looking for that feedback. If I have a plan that sounds efficient, looks great on all elements, and people agree with it, you get that buy-in, and people are going to go out there and work harder. And if the plan falls apart, I got to put my hand up and say, hey, that's on me. That was my plan. I learned some things here. And then, be humble enough to share your learning points. Tell them, hey, this is what I learned. This is where I messed up. This is where I learned. This is where I will improve. And that just builds trust. I mean, it really does. And we only could police the people if they're going to allow us to. And if we have that trust, transparency, we work on that relationship building, we can truly be successful as a police department.
I love that notion of earning it, right? Like not just deserving it, but I like that for everything. I like that for your interactions with the community. I like that for the leaders, whether it's informal or formal leaders. Like, no, you got to earn it. Going back to like, are you ready to test for sergeant? Are people tapping you from above and from your peers and, from below? If you're at that, first line leader, or you're an FTO, or you're a corporal, are people saying, man, I want to work for you? That says a lot. That says a ton, right? So, and even like the having to know it all or having a plan. I love the discussion of soliciting feedback, because there's the notion or the saying like those closest to the problem are often close to the solution. And sometimes they might not have time or the bandwidth to create the solution or the perspective, because I like to tell my guys, like, I'm a mid-level manager, which is like nothing crazy awesome. You're just the next link of the chain. But I often say that I don't know better than they do. I just know different than they do, right? Like my prerogative and my role is technically different than theirs. They are better sergeants than I am a sergeant today. However, I have insights and experiences from the time that I was sergeant, which informs me better for the different view that I'm supposed to have to complete the whole team aspect. And then my assistant chief has a different view and purview, and his day-to-day is different than mine. and he knows different than me. He may know better than me in some areas, but certainly not everything, because he has literally a different job and all the way up the chain. I like to focus on that, especially for my team, and hopefully that helps breed this collaborative energy, and that goes right back to trust, which is a lot of what you've been talking about.
No, I agree. I mean, look at us. Like, we're in two different departments, two different agencies, but we have bounced ideas off each other. I met with you in your office, and I mean, we just talked ideas. I mean, this all kinds of things, even with the recruiting. Recruiting against us, even though you were trespassed from our facility.
I was trespassed.
But
I got a form and
that was
everything.
awesome. That was so much fun. But even with that, we were all looking for quality people, looking for good people and building good connections. And the thing that I loved a lot was some people that, were testing with us and testing with you guys and were in the process. I didn't hear one negative thing about you. Anyone that said, oh yeah, I've been in contact with Sergeant Tongue, I would just start laughing and shaking my head like, well, we lost them. If you started talking to Tongue, they don't want us.
Oh, that's not true.
We're behind the 8 ball already. Like, I don't know what I gotta do, but that just shows, the kind of things, like you said, like when you talk about knowledge and everything like that, you were able to always connect with people. And so you were able to connect with them in a way that was able to get your guys' staffing numbers up like crazy. You did an excellent job, and you don't get enough credit for that. Not everyone we hire is going to make it through the process. The hiring process is just a sliver of what it takes to be a police officer, and we vet them as much as possible. We look into so many different avenues and everything, and then when it's time to perform, sometimes they don't perform, and they don't make it in this career. And we don't hold that against them. Thank you for trying. We appreciate you putting on the badge and the vest and going out there and trying to do this job. But admitting when we're wrong and moving on from those people, it just makes us better. It just shows the community that we are looking to get the best police officers we could get for them. And I think it goes a long way. Kudos to you for what you did with your recruiting. And I love what you said about the whole leadership aspect of it, because yes, in my role, I'm in administrative services, so I don't do the patrol aspect like I used to. And so I know more now about policy and facilities and things I never thought I would know about. As crazy as it sounds, I'm the subject matter expert in my department for this moment for these things. And knowing what I know and just learning from others and being able to communicate my job and my role and my responsibilities to those on my level and up and down the chain, it makes the job better. It makes people understand more, and it makes the people buy in more to what we're trying to do here in this department and how we're trying to change the culture.
Is truly a team effort, and at the risk of always sounding cheesy or like that guy, or whether it was an email or just saying something or on social media, I know that it's gonna get the eye rolls, it's gonna get the peanut gallery. They're probably not listening to this because it takes too much time, but it's always something that is in the back of my mind. But I think that's the focus. Like, you could get drugged down by even the negativity in house, or you can be uplifted by those that are doing the work humbly, with the drive, and focus on that, right? Because everything else is noise. And even across the city line, I found in you like a leader and a peer and someone that I was able to bounce things off, like you said. And yeah, it was definitely competitive and collaborative. Like, I could say, I'm not gonna, but I could say specific names of people that I lost to Auburn, and I could think of specific names that you guys didn't have a chance, and like you wish you had a chance, but they came to us. Like, that's part of the game, right? But I think that you could even tie it back to, when you're talking about promotional testing, like, be you, like, be the best version of you. And so for those that are involved in their recruiting at their department, or they might have an ear on those that are, like, I strongly advise, like, that's where we found success, was being unapologetically you. Like, don't be the recruiter that's like, this job is everything you want to be and more. No, this job is that with an asterisk, which is your city dynamics, your community dynamics, and what the culture is looking for. And like, go meet everyone and find out the right culture for you. When I have a candidate that resonates more and is more aligned with Auburn's culture than mine, I'll be bummed, but you got to move on. So I think that is really helpful, where it is same team. Literally, how many times I've gone to Auburn, or I've asked Auburn to come back me, or as a sergeant, I'm asking for the guys and gals in Lee Hill to go north to back my East Hill officers because the Valley guys downtown are actually farther. Like, that's a thing. And that's the really powerful teamwork that we really feel in the Valley. And everyone has a pocket of that, right? Like, every region has their like co-op kind of and allied and next door agencies, which is awesome.
No, it is, and I mean, obviously, we for gamesmanship, we talk trash and oh, we're better, and but I mean, yeah, we're a team, and I mean, we are. If we want it or not, we all wear a badge and a gun. When people see an officer show up, they don't care where you're from. They called you, you showed up, and they need help, and they don't care if you're a state patrol, if you're a deputy, or you're the local city cop. They
Hmm.
want you there. They need you there. And so I love the fact that our agencies in the Valley in general, that we train together. We have our collaborative teams that train together. We know each other. We see each other. There's relationships and friendships. And so I think that our area is beautiful in that regard. 'Cause, I mean, you do hear there's some agencies that they battle each other,
Hmm.
and we don't. I mean, even like you said with the recruiting, it was a good time. I mean, it was fun. It was always great, when someone's like, "Oh yeah, like oh, who you testing with? Oh, Kent, Renton, and Auburn." It's like, all right, let's get them. And we would
Yeah, here
start
we go.
pushing, and gosh, I felt like a high school kid, texting all the time. Hey, how's it going? Oh, I got this part with Kent. Ah, dang it! And I'm, pushing behind the scenes to get them to catch up. And but I mean, it was great. It was very competitive. I know that both of our agencies hired some great quality individuals
Hmm.
that really wanted to be here, that really wanted to be police officers, that were willing and able to put on the vest and the badge and go out there and serve the community. And so you did a great job, though. You don't get enough credit for it, and you're not going to brag about it. And so since I'm on here, I got to say you did an amazing job. You were a two-man team, you and Cortines, and you guys did an excellent job. And so we started molding our program after you guys. And when we started looking more like what you were doing, and we have a recruiting team here now, and we host the public safety testing on Sundays. We get them every other month, but it's helped. And so we,
Hmm.
we, we straight up stole those ideas from you guys. And thank you for
But
your
that's
help
the
with
whole
that.
thing. Yeah, that's the whole thing is like, so for those that are, I know that there's an audience that are trying to get into law enforcement and they listen into this, or new cops, or, hey, if you are the recruiter, you're on the recruiting team or the soon to be recruiting team for your department, highlight the fact that you collaborate with your neighbors, right? Highlight the fact that it's not just you, because we all know those agencies that they're, blank doesn't stink, and they act that way. They act that way with the cops. They act that way with the community. Like, it's not the people that act like they're the best will soon not be the best, even if they were for a minute. Like, you can't rest on your own laurels forever. Like, you got to keep challenging and innovating. And that's what I loved about the camaraderie and competition, right? The fact that we have agencies where we can take a selfie and post it on both our socials and not, like highlight, hey, here we are at Auburn getting trespassed. Oh, here's me and the commander. Like, we're buddies again. Like, that's awesome, right? Because that's really what the job is like. And I think it highlights to the candidate, like, okay, this is an agency that is not so far into themselves. They're more about the big picture. I think that's huge.
Well, I know that both of us just wanted quality people to do police work. And every applicant that we lost to you guys, I always told them, I just want great officers in great cities, and I'm happy you're going to do the job. And I meant that. I was sincere. I would, especially the ones I did backgrounds on. I would stay in contact. I would watch to see when they graduated, reach out, hey, congratulations on graduation. I'm glad you made it. And encourage that, because just because they're just up the street from me doesn't mean they won't be coming down south to help us out with a critical incident. And so I want that relationship. I want that friendship. I want them to see me and, oh, hey, how you doing? And catch up. I think people, when it comes to recruiting, yeah, you're going to lose some of these, 5-star recruits that you want out there. But you know what? Treat those 4 and 3-star recruits like they're a 5-star, and they'll give you that 5-star effort, and you
Mm-hmm.
will you'll pay dividends in the end, because you will attract quality people regardless of their incoming skills and abilities. If they're trainable and coachable, you'll get that 5-star talent out of anybody that you hire. So stick with it when it comes to recruiting. Don't give up. Stay positive, and you're gonna miss some, but you never know when their family situation changes, where they want a lateral or whatever, and you just never know. So keep those relationships and keep those friendships, because it pays off.
It's so true. I mean, anyone that's worked in sales knows that it's not just about this deal right now. It's about the brand and the impression, right? Because how many people that were in sales, you didn't make that sale now, but later down the line, when the choice that they made with that product or that company didn't work out, or they just put it off, and they come back to you because you treated them well, you gave them the time. It's the same thing. Like, just be about what you're about, the good things, focus on the good, and be positive, and invest in the people. Because if you invest in that candidate, you're showing that you're investing in the future employee. Like, hey, if you treat me like this and I'm not even working for you, then like then we're on the up and up, right? But then it's on your culture and then the other team, like, no, you better put your money where your mouth is and not misrepresent, or you're going to have someone lateraling out before too long. But yeah, I think I love the collaboration. You talk about talent, and it makes me think, for those listening or positions of influence, recruiting or brass, there are so many people with a lot of potential. And I think that a hiring unit that can recognize that is powerful. And I will say we got to a point, and it ebbs and flows, and it keeps doing that, where you get really close on being full up, where, you talk about the 4 or 5 star candidates. Maybe the agency is only really taking a 4 or 5 star candidate. Maybe your chief and your ACs are like, hey, we got 1 spot left. We're going for that unicorn lateral that's going to be plug and play and just hit the ground running. Maybe they've been a detective, like, sorry, you're a really good prospect, but not right now. Like, to the candidate, don't give up. But then I do have a frustration that I felt when there was a really good candidate and we were narrowing down on spots, but we're like, hey man, like, not today. But then I see other agencies that are in a dismal hiring perspective and they were not entertaining that candidate. And I'm like, you are totally missing this gem here. So I almost want to shake them, because I feel like in some ways it was a reluctance to lower. When I say lower standards, not actual quality with regard to their background or their intent, but they're just a little unpolished. I think that that's something worth mentioning.
Yeah, because I think people forget sometimes that everyone's 100% looks different, and I'll take someone that, yeah, maybe their 100% is not knocking it out of the park. They're not hitting home runs every time; they're only hitting singles. But you know what? I'll take some consistent singles. I'll take those, because that person is coachable and they're willing to learn and grow and get better, and they're willing to give 100%. If you have that rock star officer that doesn't want to do anything unless it's flashy, and they just ignore the smaller things, then that's not what we want, because that's not police work. You have to take the good with the bad. You have to take that auto theft with that whatever, the canine track. You got to take them all. And sometimes it's as simple as just a conversation with somebody to help them understand the law, or it's a tenant dispute and you just communicate with both parties and help them come to an agreement. Sometimes you're just a mediator. You're just a mediator to let two people have a conversation and figure things out. And the payoff is that everyone's happy. You solve some issues, you solve some problems. Not everything is an arrest, not everything is paperwork, not everything is a fight. Sometimes it's just a conversation, and it goes a long way to help people live peacefully. And as long as we remember that, and as long as we hire people with good hearts, that have their hearts in the right place and have their mind ready to learn and be trained, I think the profession is going to improve immensely.
I love it, man. So what is next for you?
I think next I'm going to enter my name into the NFL draft, see if that pans out. If anyone wants a 42-year-old washed up football player. No,
Everyone likes
I'm
an underdog story, right?
Right? It'd be a Disney movie. No, what's next for me is to keep grinding, keep trying to make things better, keep trying to improve the units I supervise and the department I work for. Continue to try to get our staffing full. We currently have 5 vacancies, and so we're active trying to get people through the door that want to be here. As you know, I mean, you guys were fantastic with what you guys did, but we have a retirement coming up this year or this month, and so that's going to put us down another one. But we're like everyone else. We're trying to get those bodies, trying to get those people that want to be here and do the job. And if anyone listening is interested, Auburn PD, Auburn, Washington, just to be clear, because some people think Auburn, California, we're hiring. And if you want more information, just reach out. We'll talk to you, answer your questions.
Yeah, man, come to the Valley, right? And I'd say it's not, police work isn't everything you thought it'd be, and more with an asterisk is, if you come to the Valley, if you want the pace, if you want the grind, if you want to work hard and achieve good things, take care of some people in true need and get some really violent, dangerous people off the street. And yeah, South King County, the Valley, Renton, Auburn, Kent, Tukwila, Des Moines, Federal Way, we have our share of action. That's what I wanted when I started, and it had certainly paid that and then some.
Definitely did. It was a lot more than I thought, but it was the job. It was what I signed up for, and so I wasn't going to quit. I was going to keep grinding and get better, and here we are now. Look at us, Commanders.
Look at us, Commanders. No. And I can call you man because I'm a fellow. Anything else? I really appreciate your time. I know the listeners will have gotten a lot from this. I certainly got a lot from this. Anything you want to close with, and where people can find you or reach out to Auburn?
You can reach out to us on our website, or you can email me directly at cadams at auburnwa.gov. Just reach out, ask some questions. I'll answer you. I answer my emails. But, I just want to close with anyone listening. If you're looking to get into this profession, come in with an open mind, open heart, take care of your fitness, take care of yourself mentally. Most departments offer employee assistance programs. So reach out to those counselors, talk to somebody. Don't bottle everything in. Find an outlet that's a positive outlet for this job and don't let it consume you. Don't let your personality become police work, but be who you are, be genuine, and be able to switch it on and switch it off when you need to. I hope that everyone listening enjoyed this podcast. I'm honored to be here with Commander Tung. And I think that the job is an amazing job. It's a great career. It's very rewarding. If you choose to do this job, give it your all. Give it your all. Give it. And to those in leadership or management, as some people call it, become leaders. Take care of your people. Take care of yourself. Take care of the department. Leave everything better than you found it. That's
certainly
awesome.
Words to live by, right? Call out to the leaders, right? You didn't earn it just because you earned it after the test day and after the promotion day. I believe leadership is earned daily, and that's for every level, right? So we talked about earlier, that's officer level in the community, amongst your peers, informal, formal, everyone, right? Everyone's got to keep grinding, stay humble, and be part of the team. But I thank you very much, Cristian, Commander Adams. Info will be in the show notes. And until next time, take care.
Take care, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Blue Grit Radio. As always, support this community by subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, and following, liking, and sharing posts on Blue Grit Wellness on Instagram. You can reach me there or email me at bluegritwellness@gmail.com. Be well and stay gritty.